Pacers win again, as they are accustomed to doing this year. They beat the 76ers by double digits. It wasn't pretty, but it was enough. The defense was great. The rotation's going to demand some questions, and we have a lot to talk about on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, y'all? Happy Sunday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes, and today, a lot to get to from Pacers Sixers on a bonus little weekend one, a little different structure for these if this is your first one of the season. It was a weird game. Pacers end up winning by double digits. They were up double digits a few times, but that does not do justice that this game was kind of close. Pacers did not do well against a team with inferior talent, but they did win. Nobody had a particularly good full 48 minutes. Lots of guys had good pockets of the game, but not enough for them to create any sort of separation. But their defense continues to look good. Aaron Nesmith looked great again, and there's going to be some questions about the rotation that are probably a little premature. This was a goofy game. Pacers led almost the whole time. If you looked at just the game charts that NBA.com puts out that shows who was winning when, Sixers went up 8-1, and then the Pacers took the lead back, and their lead, they held it for basically the rest of the half, and then the Sixers started off the third quarter really well, and the Pacers led the rest of the way. So you could say for like 40 minutes, the Pacers were much better, but it was like hard for them to keep the Sixers away because they couldn't score very much in this game. But it wasn't that the Pacers, I thought, offensive process was so bad. In fact, they shot 53% from the field in this game. I thought they did a decent job of figuring out who specifically it needed to be, but finding someone who could attack the weak point of whatever goofy defense the Sixers were currently using. They ran a lot of zone, and not the zone like 2-3, like stick a guy in the middle and work from there. It's very easy, although they did some of that. But there was I'm not good at interpreting what these are. I believe there was a 2-1-2 at times in the second half of this game. I believe there was a box and one at one point in this game. I might be wrong about both of those things. Regardless of the specifics of what they were zone defenses, and the Pacers did okay against them. I thought they generated good shots. They did something I've been asking them to do for a while, which is put Pascal Siakam in the middle of a 2-3 zone. They got an extra shooter back off the injury report this week in Aaron Nesmith. That helps beat zones. But they still had trouble consistently making quality offense because they had 17 turnovers, and they were really struggling from deep at 11 for 34. So even when they were playing the right way, their offense still looked clunky. It wasn't working in the way they could have needed. Only 52 points in the paint. That was less than Philly, and they did a good job finishing plays inside the arc in general, especially from mid-range. That was a big separator of this game for the Pacers, was winning that battle. But it was not quite the process we've seen from the Pacers of late, where they either dominate the possession battle or they get up a bunch of threes. Their offense just looks really fluid. Like 34 threes is that's the same number Philly took, and they had a lot of turnovers. The offensive rebounds helped in the possession battle, but offense was a slog for the Pacers in this game. And we'll talk about specific guys who stepped up and win. But when offense is a slog, you need another way to generate points. And using the transition opportunities or semi-transition opportunities when you force misses is a good way to do that. The Pacers in this game had 20 fast break points. That doesn't sound exceptional because it's not, but it is exceptional when you consider that the Sixers only had 9 turnovers. In theory, you could score on all 9 of those and say, yeah, fast break points. Where the Pacers got themselves big advantages in this game was on the glass, and not in the way that usually they have been, where they've been dominating this offensive rebounding battle of late and winning the possession battle. They did win it 14-10. They won the defensive rebound battle 36-22. Extremely lopsided. The Sixers missed 51 shots, and the Pacers only missed 39. 51-39. I got it right the first time, right? And then both teams missed about 6 free throws, 7 for the Pacers, 6 for the Sixers. But the Pacers did a way better job on those extra misses the Sixers had of actually grabbing them. 9 boards for Myles Turner on the defensive end, 5 for Mathurin, 4 for Siakam, a bunch of guys with 2 or 3. That is where the Pacers separated themselves in this game. That is how they got those chances in transition. And when you score, it makes it, you don't let them set up a zone when you score in transition. And the Sixers' plan was to set up the zone as much as possible, right? Try to keep the Pacers out of transition because that's when they're at their best. So one way to combat that is just rebound so well that the Sixers have to think about what they're doing. And that is where the Pacers found their stride and found some easy shots was in those moments. That's what I thought stood out to me. And that is why the Pacers defense was so important in this game, to actually execute a strategy like that. That's kind of risky, right? If you're not forcing misses, that what doesn't work. You can't get rebounds and run. You can't hit the open floor. You have to actually get stops. And that's how the Pacers won this game, is their defense leading to those rebounds. Terrific defense by the Pacers against the Sixers guards was the difference in this game. Tyrese Maxey, who lit up the Pacers for 40-something points in this building, in that building, whatever, I'm not there anymore. Earlier this season, one of the Pacers' worst losses of the year, right? I was thinking about that game a lot when the Pacers were losing in the third quarter. Like, wow, the Pacers lost to the Embiid PG Sixers already once. End of the season, this can happen again. Maxey goes 10 for 23. That's okay. 2 for 7 from deep, 3 assists, -6, only 28 points. Much more limiting than the first time, and shot 43.5%. Eric Gordon, another guard for the Sixers, 1 for 7 from the field, 1 for 5 from deep, missed both of his twos. He had 5 assists. He was the best creator on the Sixers in this game. Ricky Council, the fourth, 6 for 18, 2 turnovers, 2 assists. He couldn't really get it going as a creator. Kelly Oubre had 3 assists and 2 steals. He shot it okay. Jeff Doughton, 3 for 8, 6 assists. He was creating okay with no turnovers. And Justin Edwards had 1 turnover, 1 assist on 2 for 6. Every guard or ball handler on Philly had an off night because the Pacers' defense and ball pressure was quite good in this game. That is where I think they separated themselves. You saw a lot of Andrew Nembhard not quite matching, but playing as much as he could with Tyrese Maxey for a lot of this game. The only times he didn't, which is why his minutes are much lower, unlike Thursday when they played the Pistons and he matched Cade Cunningham, was foul trouble. 5 fouls for Nembhard. He still did a good job in that matchup. The Pacers won Nembhard's minutes by 3, but they relied on Ben Shepherd a lot as the second guy to defend Maxey, and Ben Shepherd did very well. Ben Shepherd, one of the standout performers of this game, just a very calm, cool, collected guy in a big role where he had to take 6 threes and defend a star player, and he had no turnovers and 12 points on 4 for 7 shooting. He was really good. But those two in tandem, and then Mathurin to lesser extents, TJ McConnell to lesser extents, they defended good perimeter players, and that is why the Sixers got nothing going. They couldn't get going toward the rim. They had a decent number of points in the paint, although a lot of those are from their bigs. 56 points in the paint for Philly. They were getting some buckets from Drummond, although he didn't play very well. But Adembona was great in the paint. They got to the basket every so often with Maxey, but Pacers did a really good job applying ball pressure, making it hard for the Sixers to run their offense. 21 assists for the 76ers this game. That's not going to cut it, right? You absolutely have to get the ball popping a little more than that to get a win, and the Sixers didn't. They were relying on a lot of self-created shots. They were relying on a lot of putbacks, lots of stuff like that can be good offense when your style dictates that you should play that way, but it doesn't really look like that should have been the case for the Sixers. It feels like they should have been relying on Maxey more to create for others. This is a team that averages, they're last in league in assists anyway, but you can see the kind of effect that has on a team when the ball can't pop the right way and they can't generate good shots every time because of what the Pacers are doing. You end up with a game like this, 21 assists in the bottom 20 games, in the bottom half of the games for the Sixers this season. So that's how the Pacers won. Their defense was good, particularly on the Sixers guards. Not one of them shot 50% from the field. Many of them had, at best, an even assist-to-turnover ratio. Many of them negative. Andre Drummond made half of his shots. Adembona made all of his shots. Pete Nance made his only shot. Everyone else on Philly shot it quite poorly and didn't play particularly well as a creator. And that's where the Pacers separated themselves. The other thing they did is they got the right guys scoring in the right pockets of the game. This was like when they beat the Cavs, what I stood out to me in my whole first segment from that game was like every time you could have possibly started watching Pacers Cavs, somebody else was dominating the game for the Pacers. This one was a little different in that lots of pockets of the game. There was one guy who was the standout offensive player, but not in a way that they were like dominating the game like against Cleveland, and they needed that to win. The Pacers did, but they didn't have very much flow in this game. Credit the Sixers in their goofy zones for making it hard for the Pacers to get into that. Early in the game, It was Aaron Nesmith who had 9 first quarter points. Amazing drives from him. He hit 2 free throws, hit a 3. We will talk much more about him later. Myles Turner had some forceful first quarter plays, a beautiful dunk, a block, and then saving the ball off of Eric Gordon. Ben Mathurin did as well. And then in the second quarter, wasn't any of those guys repeating that performance? Well, Aaron Nesmith was okay, but Ben Mathurin, Myles Turner, and Aaron Nesmith combined for 7 points in the second quarter. Instead, the second quarter was Pascal Siakam getting to the foul line and Thomas Bryant, of all people, going crazy with 7 points himself, right? And then in the third quarter, the game shifts a little more. Tyrese Haliburton closed out the second quarter strong. Myles Turner starts the third quarter strong. He had 10 points in that frame, hitting 2 threes. And then to close it out, it was the Stars. Haliburton had a good fourth quarter passing the ball and running the show. Pascal Siakam had 10 points in that frame. Ben Shepherd hit 2 crucial threes, including the dagger in that frame. They just spread it out. Everybody had their contributions at different times, and the Pacers needed that. They needed someone to be able to find spots on the floor to get it done, and they did at all times in this game. So enough offense, albeit not great offense, and good defense for the Pacers, who continue to play legitimately good defense, right? And they're at the point where I think that is becoming closer. It's not a trend, right? No, they should not be thought of as a good defensive team yet, even though they've been doing it for a while. You know, Myles Turner did his post-game interview on the court with Pat Boylan in the arena, and he said, we came together. Our defense has been carrying us the last 10 games or so. And I thought that was fascinating to hear about this Pacers team. Currently in the month of January, Pacers are only team with 8 wins. Now, granted, they played equal or more games than most teams, but they are third in defense in January. 107.4 defensive rating. Over 2 points ahead of fourth. Only the Clippers and Thunder have been better defensive teams this month. The Pacers offense is also very good at sixth at 119.2, quite a healthy bunch ahead of everybody. So it's actually fair to say their defense is carrying them. They're higher in the defensive rating rank this month than offense, and their offense has still been very good. They have the second best net rating in the league since the year flipped. I think that's a ton of credit to them for that. The last 10 games, like Turner said, the Pacers are third in defense, OKC and the Clippers being the only teams ahead of them, and they're right up there second in net rating. So they are being carried slightly, even though their offense is more potent, by their defense right now. And I think that's what I was asking about post-game. You know, the Sixers don't have a ton of talent. It's not like the Pacers had an awesome defensive game. They did defend better against this exact same group than they did in October, and that's a sign of progress. And it fits into their theme of defending very well for several recent games. And I don't know how long this can last. We've seen this team not be good on defense after stretches of being good on defense, but they have been legitimately very good on defense for, you know, over 10% by far, closing in on 20% of an 82-game season. And it's flipped around everything for them. They give themselves a chance on nights like this where they don't particularly look great on offense. And that, like I just mentioned, is part of the difference between the current Pacers and the October-November Pacers, who were a worse offensive version than last year and couldn't stop anybody. So they'd lose to the Sixers at home. Tyrese Maxey would go crazy. They would go to overtime. They would just lose. They needed Tyrese Haliburton miracle to even get to overtime, right? In this game, they just comfortably stay ahead almost the whole night. They get enough stops. They have another plan that works. Great teams can win even when they're not playing well because they can find ways to win. And that's what the Pacers have been doing. And that's the story of this game to me. Some good defense, some great ball pressure, timely scoring from everyone, even though nobody got really into a flow for the Pacers offensively. Credit the Sixers and their zone defenses for that. So much more I want to get to. Guys who did play well for good swaths of the game, if not all of their minutes, and the upcoming rotation discussion that I had last month and now really needs to happen given the Pacers' health. Before we do any of that, though, we need to talk about FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. What a great Saturday in the NFL. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets. If you win your first bet, that's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you'll get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day on this lovely weekend. Let's keep rolling on Pacers Sixers. Locked on Sixers could be your second listen. Hear about that team that is not in a good place, let's say, trying to decide what their direction should be for the rest of the season. A couple players I have in my notes to talk about. I talked about Myles Turner's first half already. Was his second really productive game in a row, a double-double 2 days after making 8 threes, 18 points and 11 rebounds. He was plus 10. His start to the game, the stats aren't that awesome, but the way he played was really important. A monster dunk, 5 forceful boards, 2 assists in the first quarter for Myles Turner, a block on Aaron Gordon, and then saving the ball before it went out and throwing it off of a Sixers player and out of bounds. Where the Pacers started down 8-1 and were in a little bit of a malaise, I thought that was really important for the Pacers, that Myles Turner kind of whipped everybody into shape and said, hey, let's go. Let's get it. And then Pascal Siakam was the second half standout, 13 of his points coming in that half. He was 4 for 5 from the field and 5 for 6 from the foul line, plus 6 boards and 3 assists. He started really slow, couldn't get anything going, and then really cleaned it up late. The front court has been great for the Pacers 2 games in a row. It happened. TJ McConnell had a really nice game after a slump for a while. 5 for 7 for McConnell with 3 assists and only 1 turnover. He was huge in the first half. He was slithering into that zone pretty well. The Sixers were willing to go zone against any group, so I thought for sure they were going to stick in zone forever against McConnell. I mean, they went zone like their 5th possession against the Pacers starters. So McConnell needed to be good. He needed to find a way to break into that zone, get the ball moving, keep the Pacers running good stuff, and he did. And he also made those, 5 to 12 footers all night that he's become so good at of late. It was really good to see him get that going. That could really turn things around because the Pacers had good plus minuses from their plus matching in this game, but in general, their bench units were better than their starters in this game, and McConnell was a big part of that. Thomas Bryant was a big part of that. He was pretty efficient, and Aaron Nesmith was terrific. He 4 for 5, 2 for 3 from deep, 2 free throws on his way to 12 points in 11 minutes. So some good bench minutes. Ben Shepherd was the standout bench guy. He led the Pacers in plus minus. Shepherd, great in transition, good on the defensive end on his 12 points. So the bench was all really good, but I thought McConnell finally having that kind of game was important. And then the guy who barely played, because he didn't play in the first half because of the way the rotation's shaken out with Nesmith, is Jarace Walker, who was awesome. He was so tremendous in this game at a needed time for the Pacers. He came in during the third quarter, and it was not at all obvious the Pacers were going to win this game. In fact, it really wasn't obvious they were going to win until there was about 2.5 minutes to go. But Jarace Walker came in, 3:05 to go in the third quarter. It's a 3-point game. The Sixers have just not gone away. He checks in, and less than 20 seconds later, driving dunk, monster play. And then he forces a foul / turnover, or whatever you want to say, on Kelly Oubre in the corner because he got hit in the face right after that. And then Pascal Siakam had a putback dunk, and all of a sudden, he's been in for exactly 60 seconds, and the Pacers' lead has gone from 3 to 7. That was a huge stretch. He ended up having a really, really nice game in his limited minutes. And Rick Carlisle told him before the game he's got to be ready for whatever that situation is going to be. Well, that was it. Play almost 9 minutes, make a shot, rebound, pass. Great Jarace Walker minutes in this game. I thought that was really important. So, odd game. The Pacers' energy was kind of weak. Their shot making was but they found a way to get it done. And I think that speaks to their bench. That speaks to their depth. That speaks to growth from the beginning of the season when they would not win this type of game. And that is how they're 24-19. Now we got to move on to the other part of this, and that is rotational stuff. I should add 2 more things. One, Rick Carlisle, after the game, ton of praise for Ben Shepherd and his goofy minutes. For example, Ben Shepherd came in during the first quarter for about 20 seconds for Ben Mathurin, then came out because Mathurin got coaching and came right back in. Then later he came in for about 30 seconds and then came right back out for Andrew Nembhard so Nembhard could guard Tyrese Maxey. So in the first quarter of this game, Ben Shepherd, who played a tremendous game and was locked in every second he was in there, Ben Shepherd played 59 seconds. It's just really strange, but he deserves a ton of credit for that kind of stuff, and Carlisle gave him praise for it. The zones the Sixers were running did a good job of seducing the Pacers into shots that you don't want to take. If you're the Pacers, they made a lot of them, but that was a very odd kind of strategy thing that they happened to get those down. The Sixers were being very clever with their defenses, mixing in a ton of stuff. They deserve a ton of credit for that. Nick Nurse is really good at it. It definitely threw the Pacers off, but there were times that the Pacers were like, okay, we'll just take this shot and hit it, and that was possible because it wasn't such traditional zones. There were some more soft spots on the floor for them to actually find success in that way. Okay, 20 minutes in. Let's talk about the rotation. This was the most interesting non-game story of the night. I asked Rick Carlisle before the game about how they're going to handle this, right? Because Ben Mathurin has been the starter. Aaron Nesmith is back and started last year the whole time and started on Thursday. How are they going to do this? What's this going to be? What choices are they going to make? And you can watch the video on my Twitter feed. I tweeted the video of Carlisle's answer out, but effectively he said they're going to it's still fluid. They're still kind of figuring out what that's going to look like. They started Ben Mathurin in this game, and I talked about this on Christmas. I think starting Ben Mathurin is the right choice. I'll get to that in a second. Nesmith played off the bench. Jarace Walker played in the second half. Eventually, Nesmith's minutes will grow. Does that mean Jarace doesn't play? Does that mean he starts? How's that going to look, right? That's one question everybody has. A lot of reactionary, wow, Nesmith's minutes were better than Mathurin's tonight. They were. Nesmith's played very well since returning. Can we please remember that the Pacers starting five with Mathurin in it has been like pummeling everyone until right before this week? I get what's happened since Nesmith returned. Like I've been at both games. I saw it. But I also would like to use the much larger sample size to say that should not be enough to be like, yeah, change things immediately. I understand if they switch back to Nesmith starting. I get it. I've said that I get it, even though I think Mathurin should continue starting the rest of the way this year. Or maybe not the rest of the way, but in the immediate future. They've learned that lineup works. I think they need to get Mathurin fit data with Haliburton, with that group. He needs to keep being in situations where defense and quick decisions and shooting are important and not necessarily other skills, even though he's already good at those other skills. Could help the bench in that way like he has in past seasons, and Nesmith can fit in any group. I think it's so close and you're splitting hairs that here's where it comes down for me. Like I just said, Nesmith is so malleable. He can fit with any group. Any other four guys, a 3-and-D wing helps. And Nesmith was the first sub officially in this game. Well, him and Toppin came in at the same time. And so Mathurin's less malleable for sure. And so if it makes it easier to build out the whole rotation and you can just bring Nesmith in first, I think you just stick with this current starting five, knowing that it's very possible that you're closing with Nesmith over Mathurin a lot. If that's, if how they've been playing recently continues to show being the case. Obviously, Nesmith's not going to shoot this hot, and obviously Mathurin's not going to play this bad. We've seen all these lineups be very good recently, but this is something they have to consider is who's it going to be. And Rick Carlisle talked about it before the game. Like, how do you figure out what to do with guy who took advantage of time with guy injured, plays well? If he did what he was asked to do and took advantage and played well, can you even bench him? Is that fair? Versus the other guy who just got injured. Can you remove his starting spot just because he got injured? Like, it's not going to be fair, but it is going to be challenging for them to figure out what to do once Nesmith gets up to regular minutes. He's currently not there yet, so there's not really a decision that has to be made right now, but at some point in the not-so-distant future, there will be. Now, Jarace Walker drew the other short end of the stick in this one and isn't playing, like, in the rotation. If Nesmith was good enough to go the whole game, it seems like Walker wouldn't have played. He played in the second half after Nesmith was done, and I don't know. That's what I predicted would happen. And then Walker had a slew of good games right after it. And I just don't know who else you could take out if you're going to only play 10 guys. Rick Carlisle said he'll play anyone who deserves it. So if 11 guys keep deserving minutes, he'll try to find a way to play all 11 guys. There's a reason lots of teams don't do that. It's hard. It breaks your rhythm. It's challenging to do. But Jarace probably feels like he earned it. He's playing well, and he has been playing well. And he plays a role that could be important for this team if he continues to get better. So that's the part of the rotation build out that I'm the most interested in, is how are the Pacers going to do that, right? Can they suck out Thomas Bryant and play Toppin as the backup five to play Jarace Walker, but then you're smaller, and they had that problem and went away with it. Literally, they traded for Thomas Bryant to not have that be the case. Who else could you possibly take out to play Jarace? And I don't mean that, actually, like, I understand it would be like a Shepherd conversation or whatever, but I think that they should play the guys that give them the best chance to win every night. And if that means they can play 10 guys and still win, they should play 11 guys and still win. They should try to do that. It's probably better for their long-term outlook to get all these guys minutes, but it's hard. It's hard when they're healthy, and Jarace Walker's played every game this season to this point. So that, I think, will be the stuff to keep monitoring as Nesmith's minutes grow. But it seems like, as of now, the old starting five will stick through one game of evidence. Nesmith's playing great, though, and they've got to figure out how to keep the bench humming. But they did in this game. They beat the Sixers. They have a lot of time off. Whew. They don't play till Thursday. So this week we have 4 episodes coming. 1, a mailbag. Please ask me questions. 2, a halfway, air quotes, done discussion with a guest who I have mostly confirmed, so I will not spoil it because it's not officially confirmed yet. 3, Another breaking down the duo/trios, in this case trios episode, with some interviews with Pacers/Man and players at the end. 4, a talk about Paris, where the Pacers are now. When this comes out, they're not there yet, but will be very soon. Pacers going to Paris to play the Spurs twice. So talking about that experience. And then Friday, we'll talk Pacers Spurs round 1. So it could be some goofy timings this week as stuff comes out at certain times. But Paris games are here. I'm going to fill in a bunch of French jokes while I can. It will be very fun. It'll mostly just be me looking up how to say words in French. Thank you guys for watching and listening today. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back tomorrow doing a mailbag, most likely, about the Pacers with the trade deadline approaching. Seems like a good fitting time for it. Till then, everybody, I'm on Twitter at Tony R. East. This podcast is there at Locked On Pacers and Blue Sky. You can find me at Tony R. East as well. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.